Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday, happy Friday Eve. Welcome to the Coded Podcast. My name is Stephanie Reynolds, and I am your host. And as always, I'm so honored when you catch us on the live or catch us on the replay and just take some of the time out of your day, of your evening, of your morning, to just watch and to give us your time. And so I'm always so appreciative of that. As always, I am excited about today's show. I'm so excited to get the conversation started with this particular guest. We have a lot of history. She's near and dear to my heart, but she also has just a powerful testimony, a powerful word, and I believe that what God has given her is going to bless your life. And so I'm going to get into the conversation, but just some housekeeping things. Just a reminder to go to our YouTube page at Coded TV and subscribe, like, share, all of that good stuff. Also, the Coded Conference is coming up in June. It's June 10th and 11th. If you haven't already registered, you can do that on our website, codedwomen.org, and just be a part of the community, a part of what God is doing, a part of the movement of having women who are whole and complete and full of purpose and pursuing God, pursuing destiny, and living at their fullest capacity in every area of their lives. So check out our website, join the community, and be a part of what God is doing. Really quickly before we get into the interview, because I want to make sure we have plenty of time to have our conversation. I was talking to the guest prior to us starting tonight, and even just earlier, I was thinking about some things. And so when she started talking, I'm like, it's so amazing how things just kind of all come together. But this morning, I had woke up and I just felt really heavy. I just felt kind of just discouraged and just a little bit, womp womp. And my husband was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I can't even really explain it. I just feel a little discouraged." And I think what it was, as I kind of interrogated my thoughts and, did some introspection type work, to just kind of see really what I was feeling. It was just sometimes when God gives you an assignment, and he doesn't, very rarely does he give you the end of that assignment. Very rarely tells you what it's going to look like along the way. But he gives you this assignment, and you're doing it one act of obedience at a time. And sometimes the capacity of it, sometimes what it feels like and what it looks like can feel so heavy, and it can get so discouraging. And so, because it's just like, okay, God, what you're saying is not necessarily aligning with what it looks like right now, right? And so, as I was talking to my guest, and and she was kind of filling me in on some of the things she was going through, what I was reminded of was the story of Noah, and how God had told Noah to build this boat, something that he had never seen before, he had never done before, didn't think he was qualified for, right? The Bible doesn't say that he was like this master built boat builder. He was just a righteous man who was obedient to God. And step by step, instruction by instruction, he began to build this boat. And as I was thinking about that story, it was like God was just reminding me, just keep building the boat. You might not know, it might not look like a boat right now. It might not feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It might not you might not understand all of these steps, but just keep building your boat. And if you keep building it and you still endure and you keep being obedient and you keep moving forward, ultimately, you're going to build what it is that I have given you to build. And so I just want to encourage you this evening, this morning, this afternoon, whenever you're watching it, to just keep building your boat. whatever it is God has told you to do, whatever He has said to you, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like in this moment, just keep building. Even if you nick yourself along the way, you get some scratches and you get some bumps along the way, keep building that boat, because ultimately destiny is on the other side of that. And so that's just my encouragement to you tonight. I pray that you have the capacity to endure and to keep going and to keep moving forward despite what you might be feeling and what things might look like in the moment. So now, having said all of that and gone through that, because when I'm preparing for the show, I'm listening to the music and I'm just allowing Holy Spirit to speak. And so I just wanted to share that, because I believe that we've all been in places, or might be in places where we just can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, or maybe not feeling like we're living up to the capacity that God has for us. And so again, it's just some encouragement to just keep building, keep doing, keep moving forward, keep going, and knowing that on the other side of that, you will do what God has called for you to do. So now let's get into the good stuff. My guest is someone who I think now we've known each other for over over 10 years. It's been a long time. We met in the most random of ways. And I know when she comes on, we'll talk about it, because we believe that the way that we met was really just indicative of what our relationship has been. It's always been about purpose. It's always been about destiny. We have some foolery that has gone on in the midst of it too, and some fun. But it's always come back to doing what God has called for us to do and really connecting in that. And so I'm excited to have her on the show. I'm honored to have her on the show. I'm ready to laugh. I'm ready to share. I'm ready to just be able to have this conversation about right. And she's going to tell you some more about what that is, what that stands for, and what all that entails. But I want to welcome to the show my friend. So let me tell you really quickly before I welcome her to the show. This particular person has just been such a light. What I love so much about her is we have the kind of relationship where we might not talk every day. We might not, go out all the time. Actually, now we don't anyway, because she lives in a completely different state. But whenever we come back together, it's just like nothing ever ended, nothing ever changed, nothing ever stopped. And so for me, that is just like the strength of our relationship, and it just shows just how much we really are connected, and I love her. So please welcome to the Coded Podcast, Miss Jaime Gill.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hi, Jamie. I was getting ready to bring you on, and then I saw you. I'm not like, okay, let me try to find a story that I can
Yeah, let me
tell.
see. My camera went all the way out. I was like, what happened?
Oh wow,
You take good cues, my
technology, right?
sister. Hey, coded community.
That's so
And the
funny.
camera I'm supposed to be looking at is not even like that camera went out. So I'm looking at this camera. So thank God for options, right?
Yes, yes. And you are a video girl. You're a tech girl, so
A little bit.
you're able to make it work. Well,
Always. Especially for you. Boo.
well, I appreciate that. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm
Thank you
like,
for being on.
I'm so excited to be here. You guys, I've been waiting for this baby of Stephanie's to be born for a very long time. We didn't know what the name was going to be and what it was going to look like, but this platform, this movement, I have known. And sweetheart, we've known each other for more than 10 years. We go back to 2004.
I
So,
couldn't. I was trying to count because I'm like, I know it's been longer than that, but
yeah.
I think in my head I'm not as old as I am. So I'm like, no, it
Sorry
couldn't be
to
that
remind
long.
you.
It couldn't be that long, because that means that I'm much older than I think I am in my head.
Since 2000, and it's funny because you know how churches have themes,
hmm hmm
and it was giving God more in 2004. And the fact that
Oh, that is so funny that that's how you remember.
I remember, for those of
That's
you that
so
don't know, I
funny.
worked at a church for a very long time. And so a lot of my life is like, what was the theme this year? Okay, God is great in 2008 or whatever, whatever.
Wow, that's almost 20 years, Jay. That's a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah.
Wow.
Happy
And
life.
we've been through so many different stages in life. When I think back, that's why I said I got to try to think of a story that is appropriate
Right.
appropriate to tell, because we've gone through a lot of different phases in
Yeah.
this here relationship.
More appropriate than non appropriate. The
Yes,
non appropriate is very small. I,
that's
I
true.
heard you mention on the intro of how we met. I have
Yes,
to tell people how we met
yes.
because to me it is literally the foundation of our friendship and to the ministry that God continues to have us in our connection. I was I worked at a church for many years. I was the television producer for New Faith Baptist Church International for 20 years. And I'm just going to be very honest with you. I love Jesus with all my heart and soul. I do. And there is no but to that. I will say that there is a part of Christianity that just makes me, I guess, weirded out. I can't even say uncomfortable. Is when people tell me go out and evangelize. Like
Right.
today we're gonna go out and save souls. I'm like, because I think for me it has always been a relationship building type of thing. Like just to go out and randomly like, do you know Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior has always been very weird for me. Necessary, let me say that,
Right.
because until you ask someone, you don't know. And
Hmm.
you could be the person that have been waiting for. So let me give that disclaimer. But for me, it's always been a you can't tell me when to go evangelize. So that's just, and I think that part of that is just the rebel child in me as well, being the youngest. And so this particular day, Pastor sent us out as the staff to go out and evangelize, and I had the biggest attitude about it. I was like, ah, but I was going to be obedient
Hmm.
because I was raised to always respect the office of pastor and to always follow leadership. And so I was not happy, but I went out, and God is amazing how He always puts a spotlight on people that I'm supposed to connect with. And
Hmm.
so there were three beautiful ladies sitting at a table at, was it IHOP?
It was IHOP.
It was
Yep.
IHOP in
Yep.
Madison.
Yep.
And I just walked up to the table and I was just like, hello, beautiful ladies. And I was like, oh, wait, hey. And it was Daryl King from King's
Yep.
Highway. From those of you that are from Chicago knows that she is a radio legend. And
Hmm.
it was this beautiful face, Miss Stephanie, and her amazing mom, Miss Becky Brewer, and they were sitting at the table. And I was obedient. I just went and asked the ladies how they were doing. Well, I knew Daryl King was saved.
Right.
So
Right.
I assumed that these two ladies were saved as well. And so I ended up just inviting them to church and just encouraging them and just saying some words of encouragement. And literally that has been the foundation of my
Yep.
relationship with Stephanie, has
Mhm.
literally been out of obedience. When you do what God tells you to do. And then like that weekend I called you like, hey, you
Yep.
want to you want to go
Yep.
to this party in this backyard party in Indiana or
Uh-huh.
something?
Yep. It was like a picnic or something.
Yeah, something going on in somebody's. I don't even know what it was for, but we ended up going, and I've been attached to her hip ever since.
It's so true. It just happened. But what I love so much about our friendship is that, and what I have admired about you throughout the extent of our friendship is one, which is so funny to me that you say you don't like evangelism because you're such a people person. You literally talk to any and everybody with whether you know them, you don't know them, whatever the case may be. But our friendship was really, like you said, about obedience, but we've always had this ability to push each other forward. And
Yes.
so, in the midst of our conversations, in the midst of our interactions, just or even just kind of having those dreaming moments where
Mhm.
we're just kind of talking about what we wanted to do, there's always been this ability for us to be able to spark something in each other. Like we call each other Mary and Elizabeth, because
Yes.
it's like something in you will jump if when I'm
Mhm.
talking, something in me will jump when you're talking, because God really kind of forged this relationship off of obedience and purpose. And so just to kind of see how we've both grown over these last 20 years and what God is doing in our lives, and how a lot of the things that we talked about is now coming into fruition, and it's just such an amazing thing. And I've been so honored to be able to call you my friend. And like I said, we don't talk all the time. We don't, um, we're not always hanging out or anything like that, but when we come together, it just is what it is. You know what I mean?
I want to speak to that, Steph, because I want to, especially for women, because we're in such a different day and age than our parents and grandparents. And I think that as people, and after living through and still in, on some respect, a pandemic, and we're in such a virtual world and people are learning how to connect. I
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to speak to women. You, when you know your assignment,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to talk to people every day all the time,
Yeah.
but you will talk to them when you're supposed to talk to them.
Yeah.
When I think about my core girlfriends, like when I think about my inner circle, the people when I have a tragedy in my life, like the first, 8 to 10 people that I'm calling, I don't talk to any of y'all. Like if I was getting married and like who would be the bridal party, I don't talk to any of them on a daily basis. I don't. Like
Mm-hmm.
my first friend outside of my sister Joy, my the girlfriend I grew up, my best friend Joy, she sends me a scripture every day. She's been sending me a Bible scripture every day or devotional every day. I promise you, at least for 5 years. If
Wow.
she's in the country, out of the country, and sometimes she makes me so mad about it because I'm like, I'm not that consistent about anything.
Right. Right.
Like who sends you a devotional? Like it's bad enough to get yours in, but to send it to a person religiously
Mm-hmm.
every day. There has not been a day. This woman has had a baby. There has not been a day that she has not sent me a devotional.
Wow.
And but I don't even talk to her every day. She'll
Mm-hmm.
send the message, but I don't necessarily respond to it. I'll
Right.
read it. That's my response to it.
Mm-hmm.
But because I know my assignment to these ladies, um, I keep my spirit open for when I need to, and when they do reach out, I make myself available because that that's true kingdom building. You
Mm-hmm.
think because you talk to somebody, I know people who talk all the time, every day, and know very little about each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a relationship I ever want to be in. If you're talking about girlfriend, dating, married, co-workers, whatever the case is, I don't want to have to feel obligated or
Mm-hmm.
forced because of some title or placement in your life to, talk to you, but we're not communicating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thank God because the spirit always knows when I need Steph and when Steph needs me, and
Mm-hmm.
we're able to just say what needs said. Sometimes we don't say anything at all. We just go
Right.
into prayer,
Mm-hmm.
or we just sit on the phone and listen to one another. And so your friendship has been a blessing to me. So thank you.
Oh, well, the feeling is mutual. So let's get into right. So there's a lot of things because again, we've known each other for a very long time and we've been through different phases of purpose and destiny and the process and the progress and the setbacks and all of that good stuff. But I think now we're both kind of at a place where we have a better understanding of where we have matured
Yeah,
in purpose and really understanding, I think, a little bit more. We understand a little bit more about who God has called for us to be and what He's called for us to do.
yeah,
Now, getting from point A to point B, sometimes we still, because that's part of the process. We're still being led and we're still God is still revealing and all of that. But I think we have a much clearer idea of that than we did when we first met 20 years
yeah,
ago. Even though we saw the big picture and we both knew and we had these big dreams, I think now understanding our identity has kind of lined up with what we believe our assignment was, if that makes
true.
sense. So,
Yes, ma'am.
so tell me a little bit about right, what that means, and kind of what actually before we get there, tell me how you unlocked your code. Right, we're talking a little bit about our process. I always like to ask the guests that to share a little bit about your journey and how you got to this place now of kind of having a clearer understanding of who you are and what you're supposed to be doing.
Um, I guess that there are two key moments, and I'm gonna grab something really quickly. The two key moments. There are a lot of moments, if I'm honest,
Mm-hmm.
but two very key moments that I always go back to. One is this. This is a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
We all look in that absolutely every day. And one day I just had this mirror moment,
Mhm.
and I often call that in various platforms, I'll call this a mirror moment where I'm just
Mhm.
kind of looking in the mirror, asking myself, like, who are you?
Mhm.
Who are not who the world thinks you are, not who the people you work with think you are, your friends. Like, who are you? Who
Mhm.
are you to you?
Mhm.
And there was just this moment that I just began to recognize that I wasn't who I wanted to be.
Mm.
and and it wasn't that I thought I was a horrible person. There was just some character traits and there were some behaviors that I knew that was not conducive for who I knew that God said I was and who I wanted to be.
Mhm.
The second moment, um, and Stephanie's gonna laugh because she's gonna begin to. So I'm the author of an amazing book, and I say that just because God did some amazing things in my life. They're called Lessons for the Little Girl, Lessons to Learn, to Live, and to Love. And Lessons for the Little Girl literally was my journal entry. I
Mhm.
am a huge journaler, hence the I write that
Mhm.
Stephanie's mentioned that we'll go into in a minute. But I write all the time. And me writing, physically pushing a pen to paper and going back and reading those words, those heart outpours, as I often call them, and seeing those things. Like sometimes I just want to pick up the book and hug them. Like I want to hug those emotions. I want to hug that little girl. And so the little girl is symbolic of who we really are.
Mhm.
And as women, and oftentimes we allow life, responsibilities, adulthood to get us to this place that we forget about that little girl, that fearless, that curious person, the dreamer. We stuff her down. We leave her behind because now we have to go find a husband and make some babies and create a career and be trendsetters and make TikToks and cook dinner and
Mhm.
all of these things that we have to do. But that little girl is literally our essence, our core, our root. She is the one that helps us to be the woman that we are.
Mhm.
And so I wrote the first book, and at the time I was dating a guy who was very creative, and I'm trying to keep this very ambiguous. And so in his creativity, I had asked him to help me write the cover. I mean, to create the cover of the book because he had, a creative flair to him. And so this man looked me dead in my face and said, "Do it yourself." And so I didn't know if that was kind of like, your man believing in
Right.
skills that you don't know you have, or if I don't know if this was like a diss. I didn't know
Right.
what it was.
Right.
And because at that time of my life, my self-esteem and
Mhm.
confidence was not where it is today. As a woman and as in dating relationships, so I really didn't even know how to respond to it. So I
Mhm.
went and did it myself, and I created this cover, you guys, and it literally depresses me every time I look at it. And I keep this as, as I remember. So it looks like, like the kid that,
Like
you
a miss it looks like a missing child poster.
yeah,
Have
like
you seen me?
you found this kid in the projects,
Yeah.
and you trying to help her get home, and some after school program flyer that you want to help perform. And so the second part of this book, that the reason I keep it is because at the time I had a beautiful woman, rest in peace. She's an amazing woman, was an amazing woman, just but she took this book and edited for me, and she put a bunch of pictures in it, and she changed the language in it. And I remember seeing the word boy oh boy in it. And I said, boy oh boy, that's not even something that I say. So I keep this as a reminder that if you don't have a vision and a plan for your own life, somebody else will.
Mhm.
And so I can say it was around the time, it was a day that I had kind of a mirror moment in the mirror with myself. And when I was trying to make this book in 2013, that I was just like, yeah, this book was self published
Mhm.
first, and two people in the world own it, my sister and my niece. And so one day it'll be worth millions because I didn't tell anybody. I was
Mhm.
not proud of it. I hated the cover. I hated the boy, oh boy, that was there. It was like, so it was really that. It was, Jamie, how long are you going to allow other people to dictate what your life looks like? Like it's
Mm.
time to live in your God given authority that God
Mhm.
has given you, you know.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, that was that
That's
was
good.
something.
Yeah, there was one thing that you said at the beginning that I think is so important. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I think it's something that we don't do enough.
Mhm.
Or when we do it, um, we do it from a place of judgment of ourselves and
Mhm.
condemnation. But the whole
Mhm.
idea of looking in the mirror, right? And that could be on so many levels. So it can be looking in a physical mirror and having to kind of deal with just what you look like and coming
Yeah.
to terms with just how God has made you on a physical level, right? But then when you're talking more about looking inwardly and really saying, who am I? I think that's one of the most important questions, if not the most important question that a person can ever ask themselves, because a lot of times what happen is who we think we are is not necessarily what we are putting out into the world.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
so,
Yes.
or what people think that we are, right? Because for me, it was more so like people saw me as being something, and
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily see myself the way that other people saw me, so it was
Correct.
like constantly trying to live up to
Keep up
somebody
with that
else's.
image. That's
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
So talk a little bit about what brought you to that point, what that process looked like for you, and how it shifted you in terms of really beginning to walk towards becoming the woman that you really wanted to be.
Exhaustion.
Hmm.
Um, that's what got me to it. I was tired. I remember a
Mhm.
lady walked up to me one day after church. She said, "Oh, Jamie, I had a dream. God gave me a vision." And this lady began to, in full detail, tell me all the parts that I played in her vision.
Mm.
God gave me this dream, and He told me I'm gonna do this and this and this. And this lady, I went to high school with her daughter. You know,
Mhm.
she was one of the, like the mothers or the aunties of the church.
Mhm.
I looked at her flat footed and I said, "Why do I have more to do in your vision than you?"
Mhm.
And I just walked away. And she was like, her mouth dropped. And I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but I was at such a place of physical, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion because, as you just so eloquently stated, Steph, I am. I was living for everybody else. I was.
Mhm.
There were parts of me that was
Mhm. Mhm.
that was peeking out, and there was a lot of rebellion kind of coming in the middle of that because I was warring.
Mhm.
I remember one day very particular. I was editing this church services, but I was blasting Beyonce in the office. I was blasting it, not just like had like I was blasting Beyonce,
Yeah.
and um, the pastor came out and was like, "Do you think that you should be listening to that?" And it wasn't just like like it was some
Mhm.
explicit lyrics. And he said,
Right.
"Do you think you should be listening to that, especially in here right now that loud?" And
Right.
I said, "You sit and listen to your sermon as much as I like." I was just at this place where I like anything was coming out of my mouth,
Yeah.
and I was in the church, but I wasn't getting fed,
Mhm.
and it was just because I was exhausted.
Mhm.
And ladies, gentlemen, if you're watching, please listen to your body when you're tired,
Mhm.
because that is a way of God trying to get your attention, saying, "Draw unto me,"
Mhm.
literally. And so for me, I had to learn when to take a break,
Mhm.
learn to say no. Saying no was something that was very, very difficult
Mhm.
for me. And I didn't know how to say no to projects. I didn't know how to say no to ministry. I didn't know how to say no to friends. I didn't know how to say no to men. I didn't know, like, I just didn't know how to say no because I felt
Mhm.
like it was rude, it was disrespectful. How are they going to respond? I don't want them to feel bad. And so I went through this people pleasing horrible phase of my life. And then I realized that saying no was a part of what God wanted me to do. Because if I was saying yes to everything, then I'm not focusing on the things that I'm actually supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And for me, that becomes something that is still a process. It's
Mhm.
a lot. easier than it was. And so for me, it was learning how to A, first say no,
Mhm.
um, B, accept the fact that I was going to make mistakes. I used to be so hard on myself about everything, about
Yeah.
what I didn't know, and how come I didn't know it by this age, and how come I wasn't doing this. And then I went through this comparison phase of my life, and then social media was beginning to become born at that time, and then people are flexing their lives and
Right.
um, their relationships. You know, I'm 42, never married, no kids, and so I'm fine with that now. But in my 20s, people
Right.
younger than you getting married, people younger than you having baby, people younger than you making more money than you, and you like, and I'm stuck in this church
Right. Right.
making videos, you know,
Right. Right.
but didn't recognize that that was my assignment.
Right.
And so when you can truly stay tuned to who you are, so I had to become, and this is in my upcoming book, I had to create a like a mission statement for myself or my why.
Mhm.
And you know, for some people, they have it. A lot of corporations have a vision and mission statement because when you begin to get off track, you have something to go back to.
Right.
And for me, it was something that was very simple. I'm
Mhm.
a creature created by the Creator to create. And so
Mhm.
whenever I feel myself getting off track, I have to ask myself, go back first to
Mhm.
who I am. I was created by the Creator, Almighty God. And
Mhm.
so have I tapped into Him?
Yeah.
And then secondly, am I creating anything?
Mhm.
And if I am, what am I creating? And for
Mhm.
me, and I probably need to make an amendment to it, it has to be life giving things because
Right.
you can be creating mess.
Right. Creating chaos.
You
Mhm.
could be creating chaos,
Yeah.
but those are not the things. And so for me, being a creative being, which I felt bad for many years, because most of my friends, when I talk about my core group of friends, they're analytical, they're organized, there's, you know, their brains work different. And so I am the loudest, most social, colorful thing at the group. I will share this funny story just an example. There was one time I was engaged, and so my beautiful friends came together because they were all in my bridal party. And I remember sitting at David's bridal, looking at these women, like one girl, Peaches. She walking around in a purple dress. That was not the wedding colors, but she was the dress she liked. And then my friend Trisha, she was like, I don't look good in yellow. She kept reminding me of how she did not look good in yellow. So she was like walking around with a sour face, but she was trying to be
That's
the
so
good
funny.
friend. And then I was trying to watch the personalities try to not take, because they're all like, you know, like task
Mhm.
agents. So like you can see it. And I was just sitting back like, this is gonna be interesting. It was no
That's crazy.
quarreling, it was no bickering, it was none of that.
Yeah.
But you could just tell that, you know, these A brain, you know, these left brainers were the meeting of the
Yeah.
mind. And I'm just sitting over there like, y'all don't spend over $100 for your dress because I didn't spend over 200 for mine.
Right.
So, but I think that just knowing who you are is something that it has to become a priority. It
Mhm.
has to become. I don't mean to make it sound like it's so easy, like, oh, just, you know, learn your
Yeah.
purpose, know who you are. Y'all, it's hard work.
Mhm.
It's so hard work. And I hope I'm looking at the right camera because I got two on.
You
It is it is such hard work, but it has to be priority
yeah.
because until you figure out who you are and what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to delay. Oh my God. Thank you, Holy Spirit. You're going to delay the life that God really has for you.
Yeah. And one of the things that you said, I think that was so important. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think it's something, especially as women, that we can really relate to, is the whole idea of busyness.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times the reason why we don't have a moment to look in the mirror to ask ourselves some questions is because we're so busy. We're doing
Yeah.
50 million thousand things, right? And we can think that busyness is the same as being effective
Yes.
or being, or producing or being
Mhm.
purposeful, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because we got all these things going. And
Yes.
in reality, what it's doing is it's masking the fact that we need to have that moment of self-reflection, have
Yeah.
that moment of checking in with Holy Spirit, with God, to say, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be producing in this moment? What are you saying
Yeah.
to me now? But because we're so busy, we never take a moment like today. um I was telling my mom and my husband, I'm like, this week I just need a moment. I have two
Mhm.
little ones. I work a full-time job. I'm doing coded. I'm
Mhm.
married. I
Mhm.
have all of these things that we're doing. I have my own business, all of these
Mhm.
things that are constantly moving. And I was like, I just need a break. I'm taking off tomorrow. I'm
Mhm.
taking my babies to school. They're still going to school. My husband goes to work, and I'm just
Mhm.
taking a moment. I have to preach at my church on Sunday. And I'm like, I just need a moment for myself.
To
I just
hear.
need a moment to hear. I need a moment to be able to just, yeah, to have just some time. You know what I mean? And so I think it's so important that we understand that there is power in the quiet moments.
Yes.
There
I
is
think that that is such a setup for the acronym for right.
mm,
It is willingly
mm-hmm,
risking
mm-hmm,
introspection for transformation and elevation.
yeah,
Willingly risking, because it's a risk. It is a risk to look in this mirror. It
yeah,
is an absolute risk to look in that mirror because you don't know what or who is
yeah.
staring back at you. There was a phase in my life. Hey, Miss Townsend. There was a time in my life, just very honestly, where I was participating in some behaviors. And as I was getting ready for another night out, I didn't even know who I was. I'll give you, I went out this one particular night, hung out all night, and I had to do the welcome at church the next morning. And so you got to be careful. When you say yes to God and God is my Lord and my Savior, and you begin to make all of these assessments in your life. I went out, girl clubbed all night, came, hung out so late that I got in time for church. I went straight to the church's bathroom, Febrezed myself down so I did not smell like the club. And thought that with my hearty self, I was going, because I'm a communicator, I would be able to get up and do the welcome with no problem. I stepped up, and they used to have a side podium that
Mm-hmm,
we would do the welcome. Well, that particular day we weren't doing it from the side podium. We had to do it from the pulpit.
mm-hmm,
And I got up there and I couldn't say a word. I
mm-hmm,
just started bawling.
mm-hmm,
Ladies and gentlemen, do not take God for granted.
mm-hmm.
And that is the best way that I can say that. God's protection, His grace, His love um, is a gift. And I think that sometimes we operate in such haughtiness as humans, that we don't recognize just how protected we are. And for me to think that I could just go out and just, you know, kick it to the full extreme and just get up and treat God's space, God's people, God's word with such disregard.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take a moment to, cleanse my spirit or get my mind right or to make sure it still wasn't no Jack Daniels on my breath before I didn't. I just got to welcome the people to church.
Mhm,
Oh God, whew. I'm so grateful for God's forgiveness of my foolishness,
mhm,
because these were things that I willingly did, and so that's why I say that you have to willingly risk introspection because there are some things that are going to stare back at you that are not pretty. And
mhm,
let me say that at the same time, though, there are some things that are going to be standing back to you that are absolutely beautiful that you have not been given enough credit to.
mhm,
There are some things that you're going to see about yourself that you consistently downplay. Like,
mhm,
oh, well, everybody does it, or nobody. And you have to begin to say, no, God gave me the ability to do that.
mhm,
God gave me the ability to see, and God gave me the ability to create, and God gave me the ability to write, and God gave me the ability to speak, and God gave me the ability to operate and do surgery, and God gave me the ability to dance, and God gave me the ability to arrange music, and God gave me the ability to cook like nobody else. And like, yes, my potato salad is better than anybody else's potato. Like, there's
Yeah.
just some things
Yeah.
that we just have to begin to embrace. That I say, until you face it, until you deal, you can't heal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that means with everything, you have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to look at every part of you, risk it, risk it. What
Yeah.
do you have to lose? You have
Mm-hmm.
absolutely nothing to lose. It's everything to gain. So that you can then be transformed by the renewing of your mind, because now
Yeah.
God will allow you to see, not only see yourself differently, but think about yourself differently.
Yes.
Able to think about yourself differently, then you're able to move differently. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is you, it, Joyce Meyer's sister, yes, the battlefield is in the mind. When you can begin to get your mind right, like
Yeah. Yeah.
literally, by God's word, and being connected with godly people that can just see you and speak
Yeah.
life into you. And maybe they can't see you, but they just want, they just cheering for you. Because
Yeah.
everybody can't see. They just want to be like, well, girl, you go. I want you to be well, and I want you to be healthy, and I want you to
Yeah.
be healed. Even if that's all they offer, then they're going to help you get to the next level of transformation. And transformation is making something new, and we are new creatures in Christ. And so, and then when you're able to elevate,
Yeah.
don't nothing bother me.
Yeah.
Stuff don't stress me like it used to. I tell people, you don't deserve my stress.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
don't. For what? So I can get cancer? So I can age? No, people ask me all the time, how old are you? 42? No way. You look good, because I don't let nobody stress me. I stress myself, but nobody. No, you cannot have that much power.
Yeah.
You cannot.
I love
Sorry,
that.
I didn't mean to go off, but that's just.
No, no, no. That's good. I think that's good because you said a lot of things that I think that are important for us to keep in mind. One, not being afraid of looking in and, like you said, seeing the things that may not be the pretty things, the things that we like, having to face some hard truths, like that is such an important part. We've been talking about it. um Shout out to Tanya who's watching. She talked some about the
Okay.
soul and just understanding that, and then Kanisha was on last week talking about understanding God's love and just how all of those things work together. Also, shout out to Apostle John Zartucci, who came and was watching for a few minutes there. Thank you for tuning in, and blessings to you too. But all of those things go together, and it's so important that we allow God to take us through the healing process, right? Because a lot of times the things that we see that we don't like are a result of places. Love you too, Apostle. Are a result of places that we have not allowed God to heal, right?
Right.
So when you think about it, right, when we used to go out and it was because there was something in us that was broken. It was something in us that needed to be healed, but it was easier to go out because if I'm out, I don't have to think about it. If
Let me
I'm
tell
out,
y'all a funny story. I got to
yeah.
tell the story.
Uh-huh.
I cannot party with Stephanie. She's not my she's not my
No,
social friend. She my Jesus ministry
it's so
friend.
true. It's so
So it is no secret that Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is my favorite fraternity.
true.
They are some of my best friends. We do great outreaches together. It's not for all the twisted reasons that people give Omega a bad rap, but they're really some amazing men. They are my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So Stephanie, she my new friend. I'm about to take Stephanie to an Omega party. She's gonna know why I love Omega so much. First of all, this party was $20. I do not believe in paying over. I don't believe in paying to go into parties in the first place. But if I'm gonna pay, it's gonna be $10 or less. It was $20. That was sign number one. Go home. No, we proceed to go to this party. Stephanie, I keep this picture as my
It's
remembrance.
so funny, yes. And if
This
you
was
see the picture, it will all make sense because it's all over my face. Go ahead.
Oh my God. You guys, I have traveled with Omega and have had a blast. Every state I've ever been in with them. I go to this one party in Matteson, Illinois with Stephanie, then Brewer, now Reynolds. This was the worst party I had ever been to in my life. And I'm sitting here like, God, why is this happening? I'm at a Q party. This
Yeah.
should be great. Like it was some Qs I had never met. They were like, it was so boring. And I
Yeah.
can never say that about a Q party. but it was because that's not our assignment.
It was not our assignment. We were trying to fit into a place, and it
We
happened
were.
all the time to the point where we just said, "Okay, we're just not gonna, we're gonna go to Applebee's, like because we're gonna go to Applebee's and we're gonna go to church because any place outside of that, it just does not
It's gonna be
work."
distraction.
It's so true. It is so true. And I think that, like you said, that's why it's so important to understand your assignment. And so often we're trying to fit into places that we were never called to fit
Yes,
into. And we
yes,
wonder why it doesn't work. And instead of having that realization and saying, okay, maybe I'm not, so this is not where I'm supposed to be, we keep trying to force it.
yeah.
And we
Well,
keep,
maybe
and
maybe it should come earlier. Maybe I should wear.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe I
yeah.
should wear pink. Maybe I should
You
wear.
know,
Yeah.
and then you start
Indeed.
to feel bad about yourself because
Yes.
it's like, well, maybe it's me. Maybe people don't like me. Maybe I'm not fun. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're trying to be something that I never created you to
Yes.
be. You
Yes.
understand what I'm saying?
You're
Like,
wasting time,
you're
money,
wasting time.
resources,
Yes. You,
relationships. I had I had someone ask me very recently. She said she grabbed my hand and she said, "What? Where's your ring?" I said, "What ring?" Because I'm thinking maybe I had a ring on and didn't remember. She
mhm,
said because she was so like adamant. She said, "Your wedding ring." I said, "Girl, I'm not married." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Why?"
mhm,
As I walked away, she was telling her husband, she said, she's just too nice not to have a husband. And I
mhm,
giggled and I just shook my head. I am so glad that I got to a space to realize my season and my assignment. I knew what the woman meant was a huge compliment.
right.
She enjoyed, she was a regular at a diner that I serve at. And so she just loves being around. She's like, she's so funny. She has such a good spirit. And she believes that that needs to be cultivated in the framing of a marriage or
Yeah.
a family. But I stopped allowing um, the world or other people's, and even I'll say this, and I'm going to use this word very specifically, my immature thinking to think
Mm,
that that was the only way that my love could be expressed or
mhm,
my energy or my passion for life to be expressed.
mhm.
We have to truly allow God to have his way.
Yeah.
We mean that in church, like have your way, Lord, do what you want to do in the
Mhm,
service. Lord, have your way within these guidelines. Don't step
mhm.
outside of these because I'm not ready for you to go into this box yet, or you can't touch these. But then, is he really Lord? Is he
Yeah.
really Savior? Is he
Yes.
really, Jehovah Jireh? Is he really all of these Elohim? Is
Is
he
he
really?
really enough?
Is he really?
Is he really enough?
Yes. And that's what we have to
Mm,
daily ask ourselves. This is not something that I have mastered by
yeah.
any means. It's something that I daily have to ask myself when my mind wants to make me. I was sharing with Steph before we got on about fighting with the spirit of laziness and
Mhm,
procrastination. Like that's a fight because
mhm,
I know that I'm a workaholic. The one thing that I do very well is go to work. I'm
mhm,
gonna go to work. I'm gonna work two jobs. I'm gonna work 36 hours straight as I did the other day. I'm gonna go to work. But when it comes to sitting down in front of this computer and writing a book or building a brand or doing a podcast, or these are the things that are struggling for me. But here's the thing: these are the spaces that I'm my happiest, where I have my
mm,
most peace. But I
yeah.
know that it is a fight between my flesh and my spirit, consistently thinking, no, I got to go to work. I got to provide. And I got
Yeah.
to take care of my mom. I got to make sure there's a roof over my head. I live here in Florida. COVID taught us anything can change. So
Right.
you live in this. You made a statement earlier, Steph, about making movement. You
Mhm,
could be a hamster on a wheel and
yeah.
you are sweating, but you're going nowhere.
You're moving, but you're going nowhere. Yeah.
No. So it's
Yeah.
time to move forward. It's time to take those hinges off that wheel and allow your movements to be progressing you to the next phases. You should be tired of
Mm,
being in the same spaces, not only physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, and financially in your life. You
right.
should be ready to take some risks, to learn some new skills, or to
Yeah.
create some new bonds and some new relationships, and to do something that you. So what, you don't have the latest technology? So what, you
Yeah.
don't have a
Mm,
studio to do your podcast on? You better drop a virtual backdrop
right.
in there and
It's
say what
so
God
true.
told you to
It's so
say,
true. It's so true.
or not at all. Go sit in the corner by a white wall and just say whatever, that God has led you to say.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important, like you were saying, that we get to a place where we really begin to understand. And again, this stuff doesn't happen overnight, right?
No,
As
no.
we've said, we've been friends for 20 years.
Woo.
And so, this thing is something that happens over the journey. It happens over time. It happens one act of obedience. It happens in the midst of the process. I remember someone told me that people think that the kingdom of God is just this upward rise, and it's not.
Hmm.
If you go up and then you process, and then you go
Yeah.
up and then you process. And
Yeah.
so it's this kind of stair step
Hmm.
of assignment, obedient, process. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where that we're
Yeah.
constantly going through. But the whole idea, this is why it's so important. This is why this is my heart, it's my heartbeat, it's my passion, is that people recognize and know who they are in Christ. Because if you don't know, people will try to tell you, life will try to tell you, culture will try to tell you.
Yeah.
They'll tell you, if you're not married by 30, you're not you don't have any value. You are a
Right.
throwaway. If
Right.
you are not
What did
making
Kevin Samuel say? Rest in peace.
right, yeah,
Women over 30 that are not married are leftovers.
leftovers,
I was
you
like,
know,
leftovers are better the next day, boo.
but it's just this idea that people, they begin,
Yeah,
it detracts, and it keeps you in this place
that's
of
true.
constantly striving for something that you don't even really know exists for you. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean?
That's
And
very
so
true.
then we're getting disappointed, and we're getting discouraged, and we're
Yeah,
feeling bad about ourselves, and all of these things are happening simply because we have not taken the time to consult the creator, to
that's right.
consult Jesus Christ, and say, who have you made me to be, and what have you called for me to do? So I'm
Yeah,
not wasting time giving energy to things that will not produce the type of fruit that I need in my life,
yeah,
And so, like you said,
yeah,
with that lady who told you, about marriage or whatever case, you think you have to have all these degrees. We're
mhm,
constantly comparing. We are in a culture now where we compare ourselves on a constant basis. You
yes,
see, you go through, and that's one of the reasons why social media, my husband is trying to get me on it more because of this.
mhm.
But social media
It's
will
hard.
completely depress your life. You will
Oh my,
hate your life because you're like, oh, they're traveling. Well, why am I not traveling?
oh my
Oh,
God. I'm out
they
here spending money I don't have because
look,
of this.
they holding the keys, the ones where they're holding the keys that says, like, that they just bought the house. And you're like,
Yes,
man, I should have bought, they're younger than me. You know what I
yes,
mean? And so we're constantly comparing ourselves to all of these arbitrary benchmarks we're supposed
yeah,
to make in our life, when God is saying, no, this is what I'm calling you to do, and
that's right.
find value in it.
Yes,
Find value in the fact that I have called you, I've given you the ability to write. Don't
yes,
demean it and diminish it
that's
because
right.
you're not out, singing.
Yeah,
Don't diminish the fact that you have an amazing administrative gift. And
yes.
so you might not be in the forefront, but without you, things would fall apart.
Everything will fall
You are
apart.
literally the backbone of companies and
Yeah.
organizations because you have the ability to build infrastructure. That is an amazing
They're
gift.
free to do, you're freeing them up to do what God has called
What
them
God has
to
called them
do
to do.
because
That
you're
is a
doing what God
powerful
called you
thing.
to do. And
Yeah.
it constantly reminds me, God, there are some can do's and call to do's. Reverend Elise Barrymore preached this sermon years ago, and I promise you it has stayed in my heart
Mhm.
all of these years. She said, are you going to do what you can do, or are you doing what you're called to do? And that's when God called me to ministry. I literally remember that day.
Mhm.
And I knew that for me, that ministry was not going to be the traditional pulpit
Mhm.
because my friends used to call me the club and evangelist. I was the
Mhm.
person who could go, I could be in the midst of a party, not have a glass of anything to drink, not have a sniff of nothing, and have the time of my life because I'm just high off. I love people and I love music. So
Mhm.
just being in environments and the energy of places, and I would end up every time I would end up going out. So I would be inviting somebody to church the next day because to
Mhm.
me, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, is that I believe that evangelism comes from connection and authentic relationship building. And so for me, it could be it doesn't, I don't mean relationship building as in, oh, we got to hang out for 6 months or anything like that. It's about me saying what I need to say to you. I remember my 21st birthday, I'll never forget. Joy was like, we have to go out. It's your 21st birthday. I was like, no, we don't. She's
Mhm.
like, yes, we do. You're turning 21. We drove all the way downtown. I had on this white like cowgirl hat and this red tank top and I think this white skirt or something. And I'm just literally just sitting at this bar, and somebody had asked me this. I'm just sitting there. I'm not
Mhm.
drinking it. I'm just sitting there. And so this guy sits down next to me, and we're sitting there talking. This man had just got released from prison, literally. He had
Mhm.
just got released from prison, and his friend brought him straight to the club from prison.
Wow.
And he was sitting there. He's like, he just wanted to see people and hear music. And I began to sit there, and we were just talking about how good God is. And somebody, so Joy walks up, and she's like, what are y'all talking about? All you hear is God and Jesus and God, and the music is loud, and you hear God and Jesus and God and God. And I said, she was like, go to club and evangelist strikes again. And it's just like, it's just about being who God created you to be. And due to that, I have always been a unicorn.
Mhm.
I've done nothing the way that I was supposed to do it.
Mhm.
It took me 11 years to graduate from high school. I mean, high school, Lord Jesus, no. I graduated high school 4 years. It took me 11 years to complete my college degree because
Mhm.
I was working and trying to pay for it and taking part time, full time. Everybody else had graduated, had got 2 and 3 degrees by that time, and I still was working on the first one. You know, people thought that I would be working at NBC by now and working in New York and on the cover or something because I would be the next anchor woman. And but God just has had a very marvelous way of navigating my life differently. And
Mhm.
there are some things that I've done. There are some places that I know that I'm not at because of the decisions that I made, if
Mhm.
I'm honest. And then there are a lot more places that I am the reason that I am where I am because of what God said and what God did. If I had to live the life that other people wanted, then I wouldn't have been able to be in Florida being present for the last 2 years of my father's life.
Mhm.
And that was something that was very necessary for me because my father was not always around when I was growing up. And there was a lot that I wanted to experience with him. I didn't know it was going to be the last 2 years of his life, but
Mhm.
they were. And
Mhm.
Florida is the one state I said I would never live in my life.
Mhm.
But here I am, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
And so when you allow God to be Lord, because God is a gentleman.
Mhm.
Let me say something because I know we keep talking about you hear God and knowing God tells you to do this. There are a lot of people out there that have been in the church for years and still don't know when God is speaking.
Mhm.
So let me give you your answer. This is going to be, it is the first, clearest, purest thought you have before your mind or the enemy can infiltrate that thought. And start with simple things. Which way should I go today? And
Mhm.
whatever quickens in your spirit, turn right. Take the expressway, go the back road. God is constantly with us. He's constantly speaking. He's constantly showing us, God, should I work out today or should I stay home and do the in-home? It's simple things. God is concerned about everything that we're concerned about. And I know that some people will say, don't bother God with that stuff. Why wouldn't he be concerned about something that you're concerned about?
Right.
That just doesn't make any sense to me when people say don't ask God. I ask God everything. God, should I wear this outfit today? Is it
Yeah.
gonna lead somebody to
Yeah.
you or away from you?
Yeah.
Is this outfit by 2 o'clock gonna make me feel good about myself, or is it gonna be falling off at a certain part of my body and make me feel insecure? So
Right.
I ask God everything. I bother him,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
do because I'm His kid, and
Right.
so until I am more confident in all my ways, I am going to consistently consult him
Mhm.
about things that will help me to make better, healthier, productive. I want to be able to create good interactions in my life and create good decisions. And if I don't know how, why not go to the person that made me?
That
So,
knows. Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good. That's good. So, in closing, because we got just a few minutes left, Jay, this has been so good. Thank you again for coming on. I think that it's so important for us to, like you said, with right, willingly have these moments with ourselves where we're honest with ourselves and we allow ourselves to be honest with God because He already knows. But sometimes we need to just be able to know that it's okay to say it. It's okay to admit that we don't have all the answers, we don't have it all together. We are still working on things, and even that, God, I don't like where I'm at right now. God, I don't like who I am right now. God, I'm
Mhm.
not happy in this place. Like, it's okay, like you said, to have those conversations with Him because He cares. And that is the part that we have to know. I don't care how imperfect we are. God cares about us so unconditionally. His
Yes, ma'am.
desire is for us to walk in everything that he has for us. And so he's just waiting for us to be able to come to him and say, okay, God, I don't get it. I don't have it. So show me. You
Show me.
help me. Let
Yes,
me be able to be who it is that you've called for me to be, because this is not working for me.
yes.
So, in closing, these last few minutes, tell us about how people can connect to you. Leave us with a little kind of last, I don't know what you want to call it, a mirror moment, for us to kind of take away, and then tell us about your books. I want to make sure, because you have a new book coming out here soon.
I too. So quickly, I'm Jamie A. Gill everywhere. That's the name my mama and daddy gave me. So that's the name that I will have. I didn't have time to be Foxy Brown 7. So I am Jamie A. Gill everywhere. Jaime. I said, keep me together. Jaime A. Gill. Jamie A. Gill. Facebook, Twitter, all of them. Whatever. If you don't see me posting enough, then just say, Jamie, where you at?
Mhm.
I'm trying to get better, much like my sister said. I used to be like a social media addict, and I was on there all the time, and it became to become just so draining. And but much like Stephanie's, my brother, Mr. Reynolds, mentioned, is that we have to know what where your spaces that you're called to, because
Mhm.
somebody's waiting for you, somebody needs you. And I believe that we're the answer. One of the things that I could say is actually a little anecdote from my grandmother, Miss Lucille C. Harris. She was a firecracker. But one of the things she used to hate that I said all the time when she was talking to me was, I know, I know, I know. And I'm not going to respond to, I'm not going to tell you how she responded to me, because she was a firecracker. But she would say, stop saying I know, because you block off the process of learning.
Mm.
You can know, but stop saying it. Like, just
Mhm.
allow someone to say what they have to say. And
Mhm.
sometimes that person is God, or that voice that you need to hear is God. You may know that you need to get up and make your bed and take a shower or whatever, but God may be giving you a new strategy to start the mornings. And so when someone's coming to tell you something that listen anyway,
Mhm.
because there may be something in there that you miss, because you have stopped the process of learning by declaring you already know it. So
Mm.
be open. To be kind to yourself. Life is a journey and a process, and so you have to be kind to yourself during this time, and give yourself the room to realize that you're not perfect, make mistakes, but then two, at the same time, or three, I should say, challenge yourself. Love yourself enough that you're going to be, tough on yourself. Don't give yourself so much rope. Well, I'm tired, where I work a lot. Those may be true, but there are also times you have to be honest with yourself. Stephanie mentioned my books. I am the author of Lessons for the Little Girl 1, and soon to be Lessons for the Little Girl 2, and
Mhm.
Lessons for the Little Boy. I have two of them here with me. But all of my books are self reflection. They're all about dealing so you can heal.
Mhm.
It's about taking those journeys to embrace the little girl and little boy inside of you. And there's a chapter in Lessons for Little Girl 2 that I absolutely love, and it's about self correction and accountability. Don't wait for somebody to say that you're getting rolled up at work because you're late for work. You know you've been late for work. Go to work on time.
Mhm.
It's just some stuff that you don't have to wait for the consequence of, because God will give you time to fix the behavior. And
Mhm.
even if you don't catch the lesson to after the consequence, you can still fix the behavior. Um,
Mhm.
give yourself permission to live the life that you want and that God ultimately wants for you to happen for you.
Yeah.
So,
That's good, Jay. Well, as always, I love talking to you. I love us being when we have our conversations. One thing that you said, and I'm going to end with this. You used to say this a long time ago, and it's something that has just stuck with me, because it allows us to embrace the process and know that it is a process, and the importance of enduring the process. And you always say, I'm not perfect, but I'm being perfected. And I think that that's such a powerful thing, is that no, I might not have it all together, but I'm in the process. I am embracing the process of allowing God to change me, to heal me, to grow me, to mature me, to do all the things that need to be done so that I can ultimately become who it is that I know I'm supposed to be. And so with
I
that,
gotta say that, and I
oh,
know you gotta go.
go ahead.
When he takes those things from you, don't go back and pick them up.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if, when we say we want God to change us, make us, mold us, remove me, help me get out of bed early. So don't hit snooze. Like if he woke you up,
Yeah.
So I have
Yeah.
to, because that's key.
Yeah. Yes.
That's key.
Well, I love you.
I love you.
I pray that if you listened live or if you catch it on the replay, that something will be said that just helps you to value what God has put on the inside of you. Take some time to um, step away from the busyness and to have that moment with God, with yourself, that we all need. That so that we can write. Give yourself the ability and the time to be able to write, because we all have a story, right? And taking that time to write is important to our story being able to ultimately have um, the impact that it's created to have. And so I love you guys. Thank
Love
you,
you, Miss
Cody.
Townsend.
Yes, love you, Miss Townsend. um Thank you, Coded community. Make sure you check out again the Coded conference. All of the ladies who have been on the show since show number 2 are going to be speakers, and so I really believe this is going to be a powerful time of transformation, getting the tools that we need, so that we can really begin to move in the identity and in the purpose and destiny that God has for us. So good night, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Love you, Jamie. And we will see you again next week, same time, Thursday, 7 o'clock p.m.